Thank you so much for being here with us today. My name is Maria Stutzmany-Marquez, and I serve as the Director of Graduate Admissions here at Mendoza College of Business at the University of Notre Dame. And I am delighted to introduce you to the Academic Director for the Masters of Science in Accountancy program, Professor Jim Seida. So thank you so much for being here with us. This is really kind of a moment in time where we get to discuss all things about the MSA program, your leadership, the student experience, and really, what makes Notre Dame, Mendoza College of Business, such a unique and wonderful place to study. So I'm going to open up and ask you about what brought you here to Mendoza, but also to this leadership role.
Yes, so like many MSA students, I was an undergrad accountancy degree, and then after finishing my undergrad degree, I felt like the knowledge base that I had and what I would have to offer could be enhanced, and I went straight to a master's program. So I did an MSA degree, and after completing that MSA degree, I worked in public accounting for a large public accounting firm in their tax department. And the experience of the MSA program, the technical competence I gained, the technology that I learned to use even back in that day, really made a difference early in my career. I always had an inkling that I might return back to school for a PhD because I enjoyed some of the research. I thought I would enjoy teaching. And so after my time in public accounting, I went and got a PhD. Worked at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana, and then moved up to Notre Dame in 2001. I've been teaching in the MSA program every year since 2001. I see the value in our MSA program. I see the strong students that come here from across the country and the strong community that they build, and it's very inspiring. When I was asked if I would take over the leadership role of the MSA program, it was kind of a natural fit given the number of years I spent teaching and how much I value the contributions of the faculty, both the present faculty and the past faculty in building the MSA program, and just the outstanding group of students that come through each year.
That's impressive. What a wonderful career. And you I think in our lives we tend to think about where can we most serve. I think anybody who's attracted to being here at the University of Notre Dame is coming from that service leadership perspective, and I think that's what I'm hearing in your story. And so you've also been at the precipice of change in the field of accountancy over these numbers of years. So I know that people are interested to hear what innovations, what are the new conversations that are happening in accountancy that perhaps weren't there, 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah, probably the two biggest items within the last 5 years is ESG reporting, so environmental, social, and corporate governance reporting, and then the data analytics trend that's affecting business in general. So I'll first speak a little bit about the ESG trend. Accounting is going to be at the center of that because most firms will need to report their numbers, some objective measures of their environmental impact, their social impact that they're trying to undertake. And so we need measures, and we need ways to verify these measures. And that's what accountants do. We measure things and we verify things. And so the accountant's role in ESG is central. And then with respect to technology, particularly the use of big data and data analytics, we're seeing a lot of efficiency gains from the use of data analytics in accounting. A lot of processes have been automated. And to me, this enhances the need and the value of graduate education. Because when you enter into the accounting profession, the tasks that you're going to be expected to do are at a much higher level now than it was pre-data analytics revolution. So the students need to have much more understanding of the reporting environment they're in, the technical accounting and of course, the use of these data tools.
That's fascinating. I'm very much interested in ESG and how to consolidate all that reporting into, one source of truth, I think, across industries. I don't know if that's possible, but it's clear that the role of an accountant in the Department of Accountancy is key in better understanding and gaining clarity there. With data, I'm curious to learn more about what students, like what courses are available to students now that weren't there before. So what do you have in
Maybe I
the
can give you a little history of the MSA program. So the MSA program is actually entering its 25th year this year. And a lot of the structure from when the MSA program was put in place by the outstanding accountancy department faculty at the time, the basic structure is still there. We have a set of core financial courses for those students that are going to do what we call our advisory and assurance track, and a set of core courses for the tax students. And then, of course, they have a lot of opportunities to take electives. Some of those electives come from our outstanding MBA program, and other electives will come from communications and other areas. Recently, we've added a data analytics concentration to the MSA program. So students have courses in data visualization, data management. We call it an advanced analytics course. There's more of a programming and Python course. There's a course that's really, spreadsheets are still the backbone of a lot of data and business. And so a very critical course we have is a heavy-duty spreadsheet course, and all these courses are taught from an accounting perspective that try to tie into accounting. And then there's also fraud is an area that a lot of students are very interested in, and analytical tools are used in fraud. So there is a MSA course on fraud and accounting analytics and auditing analytics. So those are our five courses. Students to complete our data analytics concentration have to complete up to 8 credit hours of courses. And of course, the data analytics concentration is STEM designated.
Okay, all right. So we have the STEM designation in there as well. Yeah, so this is really, so a 25-year track record and continuing to evolve as a program, placing emphasis. I have not heard of other programs having Python and some of the use of those tools embedded. So I can only imagine that the outcomes for students or the mindset of students coming into these programs are slightly different, and the expectation and the roles in which they move into after are probably different as well. So can you shed light on the kind of career outcomes for students and like this as they walk through through the journey of being a student here in the MSA program?
So our career development people are excellent, and the support we get from the accounting firms and other firms are excellent. Our students tend to, for the large part, go into public accounting upon graduation. Although there are some subset that go direct into industry or investment banking, but again, the majority of students are going to go into public accounting, with about 2/3 of those going into assurance and advisory type roles, the other third going into tax roles. The data background that they get, and again, not all students will take the data analytics concentration, but being able to be conversant in these tools, they don't need to be experts always. They need to be conversant in the tools, because accounting is becoming much more data-driven. So not only do we need to teach them, the technical accounting rules, or if they're tax, understand the tax rule and regulations and the ethical considerations around those, but they need to be conversant in the tools that are used to analyze the data in order to help the firms make their best decisions that they can.
So from that, there's two things that you've mentioned in a couple of the answers that you've given, and one was kind of framed earlier in the curriculum around fraud, and then we've talked about ethical decision making now. One of the hallmarks of being here at a Catholic institution is thinking about values-based leadership, ethical leadership, and how does that training come through for all students? Like how does that show up in the curriculum or in the community itself?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and ethics is an important part at Notre Dame and an important part of the MSA program. A lot of the courses will incorporate ethical considerations into them. There are specific courses, so for example, in the tax track, there's a course that just focuses on tax ethics. For the assurance advisory track, there's an accounting ethics course that discusses ethical breakdowns oftentimes, as well as professional standards of regulations in the tax course. But to me, what sort of really helps develop the students' mindset around ethics, as well as community, is the students that come here. The last year, for example, there were students from 61 different schools out of the 87 total students in the MSA program. So they're coming from big schools, small schools, private schools, state schools, schools outside the country. In the community that they form during the very short 2 semesters while they're on campus is just amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now, they work hard in the MSA program. Our curriculum is rigorous. They have a lot of teamwork, a lot of group projects, but they learn from each other. They learn empathy. They learn how to work in teams. They understand different cultures. And that overall ethics environment at Notre Dame, which is everywhere we turn in Mendoza, filters into all the students. And the amazing thing that I typically see is this transformation for a number of students, like a major transformation.
Wow.
Others will have, growth, but that's one of the things that attracted me to the MSA program and keeps me very excited about the MSA program is the growth and transformation that we see in the students, both on a academic perspective, a professional perspective, and their personal growth.
That leads me into so many other questions. I almost want to get very specific and speak to student successes and outcomes. But I think that's what you're speaking to is the heart of the community and the heart of the program and who we are here. And, I wonder what you're most proud of when it comes to, because you've mentioned several things like the innovations, the move towards ESG, the ethical leadership, the community that's supportive. And so if you cast your mind back, over the last 5 years and consolidate, like what makes you most proud of the MSA program and its graduates, what would that be?
So I would say the things about the MSA program is we bring together outstanding students. We have outstanding faculty that teach in the MSA program, and that faculty comes from accounting, and then obviously outside accounting too, because the students could take electives outside of accounting in the MSA program. And again, you get these community of learners together, and the mutual advancement that they bring to each other, the ability to pull everyone up is sort of that attribute that rejuvenates you year after year. You see the friendships that are developed, and these friendships persist. Like, I'll speak to alums that have graduated 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and they're still keeping in touch with their friends that they made in the MSA program. And it's only a 2-semester program. Again, something happens here at Notre Dame, and I often attribute to, I don't know if it's the dust coming off the dome,
right,
some other higher intervention, but the community that gets developed during the short 2 semesters of the MSA program, the support of the faculty, those are the things that I always come back to when I'm talking about the MSA.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's as somebody who, I have this purview of insight into every program and cohort, and I see it too. There's something, I'm going to call it the dust off the golden dome or something. There is something quite palpable to these communities that are built, and so special. And so I wonder, for anybody who is, out there considering an MSA right now, what advice would you give to somebody who's maybe thought about it but hasn't yet leaned in? There's plenty of different programs to choose from, broadly across the U.S. and the global markets. So what advice would you give to somebody?
Yeah, so I think there's 2 points we need to make. Sort of one is, the value of the graduate degree in accounting, and then 2, why Notre Dame? Oh. And so we spoke a little bit earlier about data and computational tools, sort of changing the workload in the accounting profession. And so the MSA degree, so the undergraduate accounting degree gives you a nice baseline of accounting knowledge. But there's so much more to know. That's one of the reasons, again, when I finished my undergrad, I felt there was so much I did not know. And so, again, accounting is a profession, a technical profession. So there's a lot of technical skills and knowledge that needs to be communicated. A lot of that is done in the undergrad, but we continue to do that in the graduate program, whether that's in our assurance advisory track or in the tax track. We're also trying to develop those soft skills, the communication skills, the written skills, the personal growth, areas of specialties that we can get in the graduate program that you just can't complete in an undergrad degree. And I think, again, to be competitive in the marketplace, you need to have, it's much easier to do with a graduate accounting degree than an undergraduate degree. And then the second point would be, why Notre Dame? And I think we've kind of hit on several of these points. Again, to me, I'm going to go back to the community of learners that come here from everywhere. And it's just such an outstanding group, and to be part of that outstanding group is a blessing if you get that opportunity. As a faculty member, so I've been teaching the MSA program for 20 years. Sometimes the students form such community bonds so quickly that you feel like you're an outsider. It's like, hey, can I join that group? So the community of students that come here, I think, sets Notre Dame apart. In addition, we have outstanding faculty in accounting and outside of accounting that teach in the MSA program. We have a rigorous curriculum. Our students do work hard. Our curriculum is not necessarily set up as a CPA exam prep course. We try to develop those skills and tools and thought processes that we think will be relevant to the students as they exit and through their career. That said, our students do fine on the CPA exam. Our pass rates are very good. But again, those 2 attributes of, again, I think a graduate accounting education is important in this current climate, maybe more so than when I decided to get my graduate degree a number of years ago. And then why Notre Dame? If students visit here, they sort of see why Notre Dame, and I encourage them to reach out to an MSA alum, which, given we're in the 25th year of the MSA program this year, There's more than 2,800 MSA alumni. They're doing all kinds of different things, and I encourage them to reach out and make contact with our very passionate alumni.
Yeah, absolutely. And so thank you for sharing that. It brought to mind, and I know that we just have a few more minutes left, but it brought to mind like the uniquely rich cohort and the diversity within the cohort and that coming together, that inclusion that happens so quickly. And I wonder, I don't know if most people know that you also don't have to have a background in accountancy to take on a program
that's
like
correct.
this. So can you share a little bit more about when that came about and what's in place?
Yeah, so recently we started what we call an accounting immersion program, which allows students without an undergraduate degree in accounting to take 5 accounting courses over the summer. So it's a very intense summer. And then they join the MSA program in the fall. So it's very important. Accounting firms like to have diversity in thought with respect to their staff. And so by bringing in students with backgrounds in economics, history, other subjects outside of it, finance, and give the students an opportunity to go through, again, a rigorous summer program, which we do all online, but it's a very high-touch online program to get the students ready for the MSA program. And our experience with this program has been outstanding. The students are heavily recruited. They do very well in the MSA program. They do say that was a difficult summer, right. The AIP program. But the faculty that teach in the AIP program do an outstanding job of teaching their courses and setting up their curriculum. So again, in the confines of the 10-week period, you can learn and digest the base accounting material and get yourself ready to join that MSA program in the fall.
Fantastic. So I want to thank you so much for being here today and sharing not only your own trajectory and your love and passion for in teaching and being a part of the larger community and helping to develop and inspire that community as well. I'm taking away from our conversation today that the program is steeped with innovation and knowledge that is relevant for candidates today in the modern era when working and diving deep into major complex issues of ESG and consolidating that information. Ethical leadership is a foundation of who we are, and the one thing that is just holding all of this together is really the community of that mutual advancement and students being engaged in a way that is almost unheard of for programs such as this. So thank you so much for being here, Professor Seida, and thank you all for watching.